to new stuff, okay? And you're going to learn and grow a lot faster. And finally, working for corporates, which is what I did. If you land in the right corporate, you get a really good structured development of your career. Okay, they'll give you courses, they'll shove you around to do different things, and they'll grow you steadily, and you'll be a very professional player. Okay, and you'll learn how to work, how to behave. They're great when you need a steady income. So if you have a family, if you just don't feel like you can live without having a steady income, they're great. Okay, and they are ultimately where the money is. Okay, they're making hundreds, tens of millions of dollars, and they can afford to pay you, and there's such big opportunities that you can do some amazing big stuff. So when I played in the States, when I worked in the States, I got to talk to people who ran companies that had hundreds of billions of dollars in assets. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. So it's a lot more fun. You're playing with bigger numbers. However, you're still going to be a relatively, well, almost always a minor cog in a very big wheel. And you could spend your entire career and you're going to still end up being a minor cog. You're going to get income, but you're not going to generate wealth. Okay? Unless you're a CEO or a top guy in an investment bank in New York, and everyone hates those guys. Okay? And you can end up being owned by the corporate. So when I was at Mobile, it was like, I'm not quite wearing the underwear yet, but I've got the rest of the clothes. And you keep getting all this stuff. And so you can get owned, and you just have to watch out for that. So overall, in all three options, I think there's some rules that I would encourage you to adopt a version of. One is move or die. So if you stop learning, if you've stopped growing as a person, if you've stopped expanding your responsibilities, then it's time to have a pretty hard look and move on. I always say put your hand up first and say, hey, I'm getting bored, help, and then push hard. But once you've hit that wall, stop and move on. That's what happened to me at Mobile. Second one is make sure you have your own life outside whatever you're doing. Because there's more to life than just work. And you don't want to wake up one day and you're 40 and you look back and you're like, man, I always wanted to do that, sailing around the Pacific thing I haven't ever done. Okay? And third, be ethical and be honest. As you said, it's a really small country, right? It's not just a small city. This is a small country. This is a small industry. We're all interconnected now through all these social media stuff. We all know each other. If you're not straight, if you don't deliver, then people will find out about it. And once people find out about that stuff, it's time to leave the country. And above all, I think the one big rule of all this stuff is it's have fun, right? You shouldn't ever have to do stuff that you don't enjoy. So to my mind, if you're not having fun, then change what you do. Thanks.
Boy, that's a tough set of guys to follow. Let's see. So my name's Glenn. Obviously, I'm an alien. I sound like one. Had 3 decades of doing startup companies in Silicon Valley. Got a bit burned out doing that for a while. So in about the year 2000, I bought a sailboat. Spent 2 or 3 years in a boatyard working on it. And in 2005, I sailed over to New Zealand. Spent about 3 years floating around the South Pacific, knocking around, and washed up here in about 2008. And what I do here now is I've started up a little company. We do some iPhone applications. We do this really cool app where if you think about, say, a CNN newsreader, we have a newsreader like that, but it does this really cool thing, which is that it'll talk to you. It'll read the news to you. So if you live in California and you spend an hour driving one way to work in the morning and another hour driving back, you can stick this in your little car phone thing and you can listen to your top technology blogs on your drive to work. So that's what we do. We have a really good time at it. We've got a small team here, all local to Wellington, just have a virtual office, and we have a great time playing with this stuff. And we have a really good time at it. That's me.
Cool. There we go. Now you've heard from the panel. Has anybody got a burning question? Because there's a huge variety of topics that we could be talking about. Otherwise, we'll have to go home. Do I see a hand? John, come on.
Oh, yes. Okay. So obviously the topic here is on business. You're talking about, I guess, the need find a gap and get that gap. So the problem with these guys, no offense to them, is they're fresh out of university where they are, it's all about code. So this is not called Summer of Gap, it's called Summer of Cup, right? So how do you think they can be more aware of what's going on in the tech scene? Because like they're only, I suppose, just coming into their careers and understanding what's out there. Because it's like, how do you suggest that they find out what's out there?
Yeah, that's a really tricky one. I mean, I've run into that problem with the applications that we do, which is we're in the business of white labeling this publication platform to other publishers. And when we talk to publishers here in New Zealand, there's been no iPhone tsunami here. There's 1 in 7 people in the United States carry one of these, 1 in 10 in Australia carry one of these, but it's like, nobody really knows, but maybe 1 in 40 here. So people don't, there's no need for it here, it's hard to talk to people about it here. So it's actually kind of tricky. You have to know what your customer wants in another country. And in the case of our application, I came from California, so I know what it's like to try to get to work at 9:30 in the morning. It's impossible. If you're a geek, you're lucky you can get to work at 11 in the morning. You don't have to spend that hour stuck in traffic. So for me, it was easy for me to understand sort of the the California mentality of you're now doing the work of the guy next to you. You got too much to do. Time is your your most important asset. And so we went after that with our little application, which was how do we help somebody better utilize, say, 20 minutes in their day. The way they do that is they listen to top technology news, which they need to do anyway while they're driving into work. But somehow you have to know, something deep about that customer, and that's tricky. I don't have any magic solution that maybe you guys do.
I think there's 3 things you can do. One is find someone else that's got an idea. They're probably a bit older and so on and so forth. That's the message, but they're obviously not. So Ollie and Nick have the second one, which is find something that does frustrate you and figure out whether it frustrates other people. And so something that frustrated Ollie and Nick was time management, tracking, and so they created a minute doc. But the most important thing, I think, is to have a life and to get out there and do other stuff and to be interesting and interested in all sorts of other things and meet people, and through those people you'll find out about gaps. So I met Sam Farrow face to face for the first time today, and I think within about 2 minutes we came up with an idea. And so if anyone wants to do some development.
I started my first business in high school, so for me, I kind of that one. I guess I had no fear. When I look back now, I probably should have been more afraid. But I just started trying to solve things that really pissed me off. And so what then happened, and I don't know if anyone's read Outliers. I read Outliers over Christmas, and it was really interesting because I was born, 11 years too late or something to have been in the right. You had to be born in 1955 according to this book to really make it as a software engineer. So I found it very interesting. And so when I was looking at it, I just started solving small problems that pissed me off and finding other people who had the same problem. And then what happened is by the time I was at university, I had quite a lot of experience at solving some of these small problems. And so I got jobs. My very first summer job was at university, was on a Saveloy line, and I quickly realised I'd rather cut code. And so what happened from there was it was very motivating to go back and keep thinking, what else can I solve? And so I got jobs working for the university solving stuff, right? Because I was a really good hacker, and therefore I could show them where they had problems. And so I started just doing that stuff, and the same thing when I went to university in the States, they found me work because I was really experienced by the time I got to do my masters compared to my classmates. And so I hadn't really ever stopped and thought, gosh, how would I start? So my suggestion to you is just to start. Find some stuff that annoys you, and particularly if you can find one of your professors or someone in the university and start there. And then I ended up just moving my way around different departments in the university, and then I got enough to basically be self-employed and to do whatever I wanted. And then I got more and more clients outside the university on the back of my experience in it. So, and I didn't actually get a proper job until I moved back to New Zealand, and I've managed to do